Today it's Cara and I'm already in my PJs. And it's mid-afternoon. Today I will be filming my 10 books I've loved before starting Booktube video. Because I was feeling like there was a lot of books that I wanted to talk about that I just wouldn't really have the opportunity to talk about unless I set aside a video for them. So that's what this video is gonna be about. Yeah. So I have a stack of 10 books here beside me, and I'm going to be talking about them, about why I like them, what they're about. Some of them you'll definitely have heard of. Others, maybe not so much. So I'm hoping to introduce some people to some new things maybe, and tell you why I love these books that I love so much. So let's get started. Also, my parents are in the other room watching Fargo and maybe loud noises. I'm not sure. So be warned. So to kick this off, I'm going to be talking about a book everyone's pretty much read, but I thought I'd just voice the fact that I read it in case there was any concern that I might not have, because let's be honest, I'm really into dystopians and I've read it, and that is The Hunger Games. I have the movie edition cover because of the first one anyway, not the others, because I saw The Hunger Games in the cinema before I actually read this, and that meant I could get the movie cover. I don't normally like movie covers, but I'm a sucker for deals, and this was kind of considerably cheaper than the normal adult cover, which I prefer the adult covers over the children's covers, and this was close enough. It's shiny rather than the matte black of the adult covers, but I don't really mind that much. They don't match, but it doesn't bother me that much when I saved $5. So who even cares? That's a big deal. Saving $5 is a big deal, guys. So yeah, Hunger Games, if you don't know and have been living under a rock somewhere, is a dystopian novel by Suzanne Collins that focuses around these communities, kind of. I guess they're kind of like states, but they're called, what are they called? Districts. I read this so long ago. And the districts have to give up some of their children every year to participate in the Hunger Games, in which they fight to the death, essentially. Because, that's what you do in a dystopian future. And this follows Katniss and Peter and Gale, and you've read this, let's be honest. Who has not read this? I really enjoyed the first book in the series. I was with Catching Fire. I didn't love Catching Fire, but I didn't hate Catching Fire, and I wanted to punch Mockingjay in the face. So that's how I feel about this series. Hunger Games, wonderful. Plus, I like the movies better than the books, so I'm hopeful that Mockingjay, the movie, will be amazing, and then I'll actually, enjoy it. The next book on my list here is a book that maybe you haven't heard of, because I don't really see anyone talking about it, but that might just be because it's kind of old now. And that's Midnight for Charlie Bone by Jenny Nimmo. This is the first in a series of 8 middle grade novels about this boy Charlie. You can see him on the front here, but the cover's pretty shiny, so that doesn't help that much. And Charlie is descendant from this Red King who had all these magical powers, and all his descendants have some part of his powers. And Charlie can hear what's happening in photographs from when they were taken. And he gets sent off to this boarding school once they find out he actually does have magic powers. And the boarding school's technically a school for the arts, so it has drama, music, and fine arts. Fine arts! And he gets sent there because all the children with these magical powers get sent there to be looked after, meaning they're being kept under the watchful eye of the evil people. And essentially, this series is so good. I really want to reread it, like, I really do, because I can't really remember what happens in the later books, but I read the first three. I've read the first three 3 times or something like that. They're so good. Fun, children's adventures, shiny covers. Just check them out. They are so good. So good. And all of the characters are really vibrant and alive. Not all of them have magical powers. The ones without magical powers are almost better. And pick up these books. Do it. Just do it. The next book on my list is one that people probably haven't heard of, if you live in Australia, you probably may have, and that is Tom Appleby Convict Boy by Jackie French. This is a very Australian book. It won an award, the Children's Book Council of Australia Award for Notable Book. Actually, my copy of this is signed by the author. And she drew me a lovely smiley face, which is cute. If you didn't know, Australia was founded by not really founded by convicts, but our first major population was convicts. And this follows the story of Tom, who stole some bread, and he gets in a bit of trouble for that and ends up in a prison and gets sent to Australia from England. And it's kind of his adventures getting here and how he makes a life for himself here, because he ends up becoming a wealthy man within the Australian society after he is freed from his convict term, I guess you'd say. And this is so good. I guess it's probably harder to understand if you're not Australian, but Australian history is full of all those things that every country's history is full of. And this book does such a good job of representing Australian history in a way that doesn't bag us out for being a country of convicts, but also really highlights where we came from and the struggles with that and race problems and things that we have. And just, gosh, this book is so good. I read it when I was in primary school in grade 6. It was read to us as a class. Then I bought my own copy because I wanted to read it again. And this is just one of those that sticks in your mind. And it's just so good. If you're Australian, read it. It's important that you read this book. If you're not Australian and can still get your hands on it and are interested in world history, check it out. It's really good. It is technically kind of for a middle gradish audience, but it also has some mature themes, and just do it. The next book on my list is probably vying for favourite book of all time, but the only reason I can't solidify it in that spot is because I'm scared to reread it in case it's not as good as I remember, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Gosh, this book is beautiful. This is about a boy called Marco and a girl called Celia, and they are the apprentice and daughter of a magician and a sorcerer who through time have been taking on students essentially and using them in a kind of battle to the death of magic to determine who is the better magician / sorcerer. And so this has happened many times before, but this is the first time somebody's relation has happened, and in this case it's the magician's daughter. And as generally happens when two people are in a magician's duel to the death, they kind of fall in love. And the game, this whole duel, is set inside a circus that is kind of mystical and magical of its own, of course, because the magic that these two characters are using helps to build the circus. It also follows some other characters that are involved in the circus, such as Bailey, who visits, and essentially it has so many interconnecting plot lines, so many really wonderful characters, and the circus itself is so beautiful. Like, I just want to stay in this world forever, experiencing this circus. It is just too good. And it kind of follows three plot lines in that you have Bailey, the young boy who's viewing the circus this time, the time of Celia and Marco as they create the circus and participate actively in the circus, and then it has these extra sections every so often that sit out a little bit differently and happen from a kind of second person, you do such kind of thing, second person. And it really gets you engaged in the idea of the circus, and the world building is just so good. Like, I want to be able to go to this circus, like, so badly. I am scared to reread this book only because it was so magical the first time around that I'm scared something in my memory of it might be lost if I reread. But I also really want to live in this world a little bit longer. I kind of want a sequel, but I know that will never happen. If you haven't read this, I encourage you to pick it up, read it, and get lost in this world and enjoy it because it is so good. Also, I like our UK covers a lot better than the American covers. I don't know, I don't like the pink on the American covers, especially seeing as it's a thing in the book that the people that visit the circus and are fans wear all black and white and then a little bit of red. That's kind of the thing. Whereas the American book has pink on it. It's weird. I don't get it. So, just read this. I kind of want to reread it again. I want to read it again. But everyone should read this book once in their life because it's amazing. The next book on my list is, you probably haven't read it. Sometimes I wonder why I read it, but I love it and everyone's heard of it, and that is Game of Thrones. This beast. I also have this in movie cover, if you didn't tell. Look at old Scene Bean there. Aren't you so fabulous? I got this as the movie cover because I'd actually already watched the first season before I read this. And then I bought my mother the first and second books in movie cover because we were just coming into season 2 on TV, and I read them, and I read the whole series, but I only owned the first 2, hoping to make up for that in the future. But these are really good. Like, I know, they are a challenge. They are a beast. How many pages are in this thing? Lots. 800 or so pages. They are a monster read to get through. But the world building and the characters are so complex. And everything you want in the show, but better, because the show's making things a little bit lame, especially with season 4, in my honest opinion. But, don't enter into these lightly, let me say that. But if you can handle big heavy books and you're willing to put aside some time in your life to do some reading, I think the whole series as it stands to date with 5 books took me almost a year. Yeah. Reading almost exclusively, it took me almost a year. And that's a long time, but they're really good if you can take the time out to read them. So, read it. Do it. I really want to reread them now that season 4's been out on TV, because I want to remember what's happening, because I'm at the point where I can't really remember. But I don't want to reread and take another year of my life. So I'm going to wait to reread these till probably the final book comes out, and then I'll marathon the whole series again. But who knows, that could be 30 years in the future. George R.R. Martin. Yup. Yeah, please don't take 30 years. You'll be dead by then. Please don't do that. The next book on my list is one of the most gorgeous books I've ever read, and I'm currently reading the 6th one in the series of 7, and that is Here There Be Dragons by James A. Owen. This is the first in the Chronicles of the Imaginarium Geographica series. And just look how pretty the cover is. How pretty is that? Like, the spine's lovely and it's all just, oh. And there's artwork. Let me find some artwork. There's artwork in here and it's like, oh, this book is so good. This is like a historical fantasy what if kind of book in which the author attempts to fill in the gaps of history in the way that history's a lot of guesswork. And this is kind of like, what if all those famous fantasy and sci-fi authors were in fact writing about or basing their worlds off true events. And so this follows Jack, John, and Charles, who are in fact Charles Williams, C.S. Lewis, and J.R.R. Tolkien, as they adventure in this world called the Archipelago of Dreams and kind of get the basis of their books, and poetry in the case of Charles Williams. These books are so good in that every fantasy writer from, like, I guess, don't include like J.K. Rowling or any modern fantasy, but any old fantasy that you can think of, as well as scientists and historical figures and all kinds of people, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, J.M. Barrie, Lewis Carroll, so many are found within these books, as well as characters like Peter Pan and Icarus, the boy who had his wings that flew too high to the sun and he melted. And just, you'll see so many things you recognize in these books brought about in entirely new ways, and just, oh, so beautiful. And I'm so excited to finish this series. I've got the one I'm currently reading and one more to go, and then they'll be done. I might do a series review, but I haven't read the others in a while, so I can't really remember enough, so I probably won't. But read this series. Just do it. There's 7 of them. They're all not too long. There's artwork. They're very structured in how they're written. They've all got like 6 parts with 4 chapters to each part. And just read it. The next book I have here is something that most of you will have read. And I'm disappointed in you if you haven't, but I know some of you haven't. And that is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I'm really talking about the Harry Potter series in general, but the Half-Blood Prince is my favourite, opposed to most people who like Order of the Phoenix. And I'm like, why do you like Order of the Phoenix? I didn't even finish it. I had to go back and reread because I thought I'd finished it and I hadn't. It was that boring. But anyway, Half-Blood Prince is my favourite Harry Potter book. Just all the things happen in this book, and it's so intense. And this is the first edition. I remember buying it, and my mum read it before me because I was rereading the whole series. And just going there on embargo day to pick up my copy of Harry Potter was an experience. And still to this day, I love it. I think I've read this one maybe 4 times. I've read the first one maybe 10 million times. And this series is just a joy. It's just a joy. I love it. One of my friends recently admitted to me that she had not read Harry Potter. And I told her she'd have to read it to remain friends with me. And she said, but aren't I too old? And I wanted to slap her across the face. Because who is ever too old for Harry Potter? My mum read the whole Harry Potter series as they came out, when I read them. And she loves them. They're like her favourite series ever. So I don't know how anyone can ever be too old for these. They're beautiful, world building. J.K. Rowling does things that are insane. I heard the other day that the 4th book was purely made because there was a plot hole that she had to fix. And that's the kind of dedication I like in a writer. Read Harry Potter. I love it. If you haven't read it, you're silly. Go read it. Do it. The next book on my list is one that came out only over Christmas this year, but it is one of the most astounding and different books I've ever read, and that is S by Doug Dorst. This is a heavy beast, but essentially, that's because it is a book within a book. This book is The Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka, and in its pages are things. I have little sticky notes in here to keep track of my inserts, so I have a little sticky tab here to tell me what went in that page while I was reading it because I didn't want to lose anything, and I have a key to what order to read things, and essentially this book is insane because, let me find a page that doesn't have a thing, all the story is told in the margins. Well, half the story. Half the story is on the page itself, half the story is in the margins, and oh man, this book is kind of amazing. It left off and ended on a bit of a cliffhanger though, and I don't think there's going to be another one. And I'm really concerned. I want to find out what happened to the characters. Apparently it's supposed to be on the internet somewhere, but I'm having trouble finding it. This book was designed by J.J. Abrams and conceptualized by J.J. Abrams and brought to life by Doug Dorst. And it tells the story of V.M. Straka of the Ship of Theseus, which is the character, the ship in the book. V.M. Straka, the author, and his life, and the life of the two characters writing in the margins, which is, what's their names? Jennifer and Eric. So essentially this is 3 stories in one, but they all interconnect, and it is a complex thing to read, because of course it has all its little stuff in there. They all mean things to the story. It's very interpretive. You don't really know what's going on. Even the margins involve many, many read-throughs and different writing each time. And things have happened out of order and all that kind of stuff. But, oh man, if you have the time and patience to read a complex book, pick this up. Oh man, so good. This was like, it became super popular at my bookstore. We were selling them out the door. It used to have a little library sticker thing here, but I think it got lost at some point. It did have a little I am a library book sticker, but I can't see it. And it's just, oh man. This book deserves to be read by so many people. So many people should take the time out to read this book. Just do it. Do it. It even smells like an old book. I only have 2 books left. The next one is one of my favourite action novels. I have a little obsession with action novels and crime novels. This is an action novel. And it is Matthew Riley's 7 Ancient Wonders. Oh, if you haven't read this, go read it. Matthew Riley is an Australian author, but his books are not Australian based. They require no Australian history to read. Though the main character in this one is Australian, which is uncommon. Visually, these are printed everywhere, loved everywhere except in France, because, you know, the French are always evil in his books. And this is like what would happen if, I don't even know. Essentially, they're trying to save the world from destruction by finding pieces of this capstone within 7 Ancient Wonders. And I'm really into like historical action movies, like and books like Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons and all of the Robert Langdon, Dan Brown books. And this is kind of like that, except imagine that on steroids. Like twice as action-packed. After reading this, I found the new Dan Brown novels boring, because this series is just so action-packed. And the second one, 6 Sacred Stones, ends on a literal cliffhanger. Like, I read that, my mum and I read that book straight after it had come out. It's a literal cliffhanger. And, that is not a misuse of literality. And it's a horrible weight. when your hero has essentially fallen into a bottomless pit. Yep, with no known way of getting out. Yep. And that was really good. So the author promised never to do that again. I have met this author. Is this book signed? It is! From my mum. Hi, Vane Matthew Riley. If you like action novels and you like historical kind of stuff, you would love this. There is lots of death. Be prepared. It's a Matthew Riley book. Be prepared for you to meet characters and then walk out of the scene 2 minutes later dead. But so good. The characters are all really engaging. There's like you're cheering for them the whole way. There's so much danger and excitement, and it's hard. Like, you literally don't want to put it down because you're scared something will happen while you're not reading. And just, you should read this series. All of his books, actually. I like all of them. Some more than others, but I like all of them. And just heart-stopping action. And finally, I have to talk about the one book that, you know, could be going for my favourite book of all time, but maybe that's just because I just watched the movie this morning for the 4th time, and that is... Yeah. My mum just started this because we went to see the movie this morning, and I convinced her that she needed to actually physically read the book as well, not just watch the movie. But you all know what this is about. Most people love it. I love it. My only disappointment in the movie is that my favourite quotes weren't in it. But yeah, this is so beautiful. It would be my favourite John Green novel only because I connected better to Hazel than I did to any of the boys in all his other novels. But I love them all. This book is just a gorgeous piece of work. And I have so many feelings about it, and it's funny and amazing. And if you like contemporaries and you haven't read this and you like to cry a tad, what are you doing with your life? Just what are you doing? What are you doing? So essentially, those are my 10 books that I wanted to tell you that I enjoyed. And I guess I did. I think I said I loved it about 20 times, possibly more. But I really do love all of these books, like, so much. They all stand out to me. Some of those, like, really... Some of them are middle grade novels. Some of them are adult novels. Some of them are young adult. But they all stand out to me as being those amazing series that I just couldn't put down. Or those amazing single books that I couldn't put down. And I have a lot of books that I really enjoy. But these were the cream of the crop. They were top pickings, and gosh, were they all good. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and I should be back with a haul in the next couple of days because I've picked up a lot of ebooks, and I also picked up some real books, and I have a lot to talk to you about in a haul. Hope you're having a brilliant day. Comment below if you want to know more about any of these. Tell me how much you loved any of these, especially some of the less common ones. And let me know because I want to fangirl with you because I absolutely adore all of these books. So thanks for watching and bye!